He didn't know any better, and neither did I. Of course, the guts of the fruit broke free into the spaces between his small fingers.
Listen, I've decided I'm going to help you. Help me? Help me escape? Yes, but no, not how you... I'm going to break your tether and set you free.
We in here talking about joy, which might be to say, depending on how you look at it, we in here talking about destroying the world.
Why not? What is this place? Who are these people?
My name is Ross Gay, and I wrote Beholding. I wrote this book because I needed this book to exist in the world. And I think of joy as the ways that we reach toward each other despite and in the midst of our profoundest sorrows. And I sort of think of joy as the light that emanates from that reaching. In the poem, you'll see my sort of compulsion to watch Dr. J flying. I want to witness not only beauty, not only genius, not only the imagination, but also the evasion of violence. I'm sort of studying that evasion as a way to both be like, well, how do we do that with each other? It's bigger than me.
My name is Helen Frost, and I wrote All He Knew. When I start a book, I don't know where it's going. So we have friends in so many different little kind of sub-communities in Fort Wayne. As I started putting the pieces of this book together, and I had, the story of the child who was institutionalized unreasonably, and a story of a World War II conscientious objector. The group that influenced this book the most is probably the Amish community, because the conscientious objectors in World War II, many of them came from the peace churches. And those churches are all quite important in Indiana.
My name is Leah Johnson, and I'm the author of You Should See Me in a Crown. I wanted to see a future for myself reflected on the page that I'd never seen before. When I wrote You Should See Me in a Crown, I wasn't out, and I didn't think that it was going to be possible to be all the things that I am and also be happy and joyous and in love. When people walk away from You Should See Me in a Crown, I hope that they feel loved, and I hope that people who have never seen themselves reflected in the pages of the book know that it's possible to be Black and queer and from the Midwest and still get a grand, happy ending.
My name is Kim Howard, and I wrote the picture book, Grace and Box. I really hope that when kids read the book or hear the book, that they feel inspired to have some box adventures themselves. Something that was really important to me when they had pictures of Grace playing, I really wanted it to feel immersive, like she was under the sea with the fish swimming around, not just sitting in a box. I held the book in my hands. It was this really beautiful moment. And it was special to be able to share that with my kids. They're all the age where they like picture books. And so they were just as excited as I was to see this book and to read it.
My name's Craig Fairman, and I wrote Author-in-Chief, the untold story of our presidents and the books they wrote. I hope people take away that these books written by presidents are really important. It's so easy to make them a punchline nowadays. You see a politician has written a book and your first thought is, did she even write it? That was honestly my first thought too when I started poking around this topic 10 years ago. But then what I realized is that these books have been really important. The book did take me 10 years to finish, and I don't think that was anybody's plan. But I'm somebody who gets really obsessed about topics, and finding new things is really important to me, and I think that makes the writing better.
My name is Paul Aller, and I wrote Hollow Heart. I think the one thing I hope people take away from my book is a greater understanding of empathy, how empathy can be a wonderful thing, but like anything else, if it's misused, it can cause some not great things. And apart from that, it's also very important to me, obviously, that it's an extremely queer love story. It's a story where everyone in the book, heroes, monsters, villains, random passerbys, are queer. It was important to me to show that you can write a story with queer characters where it's not necessarily centered around them being queer.
My name is Susan Neville, and I wrote The Town of Whispering Dolls. I started writing it when I read about the opioid epidemic, and it was also before the 2016 election, and I was feeling a lot of rage and confusion, and somehow people weren't really talking. So I guess if you were to get anything out of this book, it's to understand people different from you to understand what kinds of pressures have been on people in the Midwest in the 21st century, and to do it through a book that plays around with the metaphor of dolls. It's one of those things, when you're a writer, sometimes you just get this idea and you think, I have to go with it.
My name is Ashley C. Ford, and I wrote Somebody's Daughter, a memoir. I hope that people take away a greater understanding or maybe a greater imagination for the childhood experience. I wrote this book because I had to. I didn't really want to. I tried to write a lot of different kinds of things before I really committed to writing this memoir, because I think part of me understood what it would demand of me, and I wasn't ready for that. But I got to a place where I was, and I put it out into the world, and it's been a wonderful experience.
Indiana inspires me because it's the place that I know and love and often am frustrated with and don't love.
Growing up in Indiana did influence this book. I love Indiana. I'm glad I live here, but I have not always felt like a perfect fit here, and I did come out of the closet in high school in like 96 in a very rural school up in northern Indiana. A lot of that searching for where I fit here has informed my writing a lot, has informed the themes I work with, and has informed my wanting to have more queer representation in my work as well.
I had spent my entire life here, and I had the sense that if I wanted to be me in all of my wholeness and fullness, then I was gonna have to leave Indiana. And so I went to New York, and I felt alive for the first time. And that freedom allowed me to write a book that was honest about where I'm from, and that is a place that has a very complicated racial history, a complicated history with queerness and, gender and sexuality. And it was that distance that allowed me to see Indiana more clearly and write a love letter to this place and all the people in it. That has made moving back to Indiana even more fulfilling. I know now the things that I value the most about this community that I went without for a long time.
Indiana's where I garden. Indiana's where I have a ton of really important relationships. It's one of the places in my life where I've studied as hard as possible, like being in community with each other.
I'm born and raised in Indiana. Like, I'm in the dirt here. The first air I breathed was air in Indiana. It's a particular experience growing up in the Midwest, and it's a particular experience growing up in Indiana. And I think not enough of the stories that actually come out of here get told, because trust me, once you start digging, there are plenty of stories out there. There are plenty of people who were born and raised here who went out there and did cool things. They didn't become cool. They didn't start having good ideas when they went to those other places. That started here.
It's like that great Vonnegut quote about bumping into Hoosiers wherever you go. I honestly stopped mentioning that people were from Indiana about halfway through the book because I was like, nobody's gonna believe this. They're gonna think I'm stacking the deck. But we Hoosiers will know the truth.
Having a vibrant community of writers and readers just makes our state better. The reason my parents decided to start the Eugene and Marilyn Glick Indiana Authors Award, number one, I think that they were both avid readers. And they wanted to encourage authors in the area to continue writing and to really elevate these authors around the state. And then number two, to encourage young people to both read and consider writing as a career. When I read books and see these authors work, I can't imagine the hours, weeks, months, years that it takes to produce these books. I think it's amazing. And yes, that for all that hard work, that there is a payoff, that there is that recognition. I think that's so important.